Hollywood, because you're fucking with a historical timeline.
Yeah.
Here, I mean, and it's very satisfying.
In 1936, Nazi Germany commissioned a poster of his body. They put it on display at the Berlin Olympics. A young black athlete from South Central Los Angeles, held up as a specimen of physical perfection by the very regime that called his race subhuman. 24 years later, Hollywood would not put his name on a movie poster. He shattered the color barrier in professional football a full year before Jackie Robinson touched a baseball. He became the first black star in professional wrestling. He earned a Golden Globe nomination, playing a gladiator who chose death over submission. And when the greatest Western director who ever lived was dying of cancer, this man slept on his bedroom floor for 4 months, because that is who he was. His name was Woody Strode. And nobody in Hollywood history was ever so extraordinary and so invisible at the same time. Number 10. The Nazis' poster boy. Before Woody Strode ever set foot on a movie set, his body was already famous. At UCLA, in the late 1930s, his physique drew attention from across the world. Artist Hubert Stowitz painted a nude portrait of him for a celebrated exhibition of athletic portraits at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. The Nazis shut the exhibit down because it included black and Jewish athletes. But German filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl photographed him anyway, and a poster image of Strode, commissioned by the Hitler regime itself, was produced around the Berlin Games. A black man's body, used as propaganda by a government that despised his existence. That contradiction would follow Woody Strode for the rest of his life. His body would always be the thing people saw first, and the thing that kept them from seeing anything else. Woodrow Wilson Woolwine Strode was born July 25, 1914, in the Furlong Tract neighborhood of South Central Los Angeles. His father, Belus Strode Sr., was a brick mason of Creek, Blackfoot, and African-American ancestry who once set a record laying 2,500 bricks in a single day. His hands were so calloused that if he hit you, Woody said, he might as well have hit you with brass knuckles. But the old man refused to teach his son the trade. Go to school, he told him. Learn something. His mother, Rose, was the daughter of a former slave, of Cherokee descent. Through his father's line, Woody traced his ancestry to an African warrior who escaped a Louisiana sugarcane plantation and found refuge with the Creek people. Growing up, young Woody was unconscious of color. He had a black principal at his grammar school. He once said, "On the Pacific coast, there was not anything we could not do. We thought we were white." It was only later, when he traveled beyond Los Angeles, that America showed him what it really thought of men like him. He was tall and thin as a boy. Then came a growth spurt in junior high, and at Thomas Jefferson High School, he became an all-city football captain and all-state in track and field. His grades kept him from a scholarship at first, so he sat down, studied on his own, and forced his way into UCLA. What was waiting for him there would change not just his life, but the history of American sports, because his teammates had names that would echo through the decades. Number 9. The Gold Dust Gang. At UCLA, Strode became a star two-way end and a world-class decathlete. He won the 1938 Pacific Coast Conference shot put at 51 feet 6.5 inches, when the world record was about 57. He high jumped 6 feet 5. He finished 4th at the NCAA championships. But what made those years legendary was not just Woody. It was who he played alongside. The 1939 Bruins were the most integrated team in college football. At a time when only a handful of black players existed across all of college football, this team had 4: Woody Strode, Kenny Washington, Jackie Robinson, and Ray Bartlett. 3 of them became known as the Gold Dust Gang. Years before any of them would change the world, they were already playing together on the same field, proving something that America did not want to believe. That 1939 team finished 6-0-4, ranked 7th in the nation. Strode led UCLA in receiving with 15 catches for 218 yards. They played eventual national champion Southern Cal to a scoreless tie before 103,000 fans at the Coliseum, with the Rose Bowl on the line. Robinson would go on to shatter baseball's color line. Washington would help break footballs. And Woody Strode? He would break it first, but nobody would remember. Number 8. The Forgotten Four. The National Football League had banned black players since 1933, not on paper, through a gentleman's agreement among owners that was every bit as effective as a written rule. For 13 years, not a single black man played professional football in America. Strode and Washington, barred from the league, played for the semi-professional Hollywood Bears. During World War II, Strode joined the Army Air Corps, spent the war unloading bombs in Guam and the Marianas, and played on the Army football team at March Field. By 1946, he was 31. Football seemed over. Then the Cleveland Rams moved to Los Angeles and needed to lease the publicly owned Memorial Coliseum. Black journalist Hallie Harding pressured the team. If you want to play in a public stadium in this city, you will integrate your roster. The Rams signed Washington on March 21, 1946. At Washington's insistence, they signed Woody Strode on May 7th. Together with Marion Motley and Bill Willis of the Cleveland Browns, they became the Forgotten Four, the men who reintegrated professional football a full year before Robinson's baseball debut. The experience was bitter. Both men were past their primes. Strode was 32. He played just the 1946 season, catching 4 passes for 37 yards, and was waived. He spoke of racism, lack of playing time, and the punishment that Southern opponents inflicted on black players. Rams owner Dan Reeves reportedly disapproved of Strode's interracial marriage. But north of the border, a team was about to give him something America never would. Number 7. 12-0. In 1948, Strode signed with the Calgary Stampeders of Canada's Western Interprovincial Football Union. What happened next was straight out of a Hollywood script. The 1948 Stampeders went perfect. 12 wins, 0 losses. The only fully undefeated championship season in Canadian football history. It still stands. Strode was the team's leading receiver and made the All-Star team. In the Grey Cup Championship against Ottawa, he caught a pass on the famous sleeper play. In the fourth quarter, he recovered a critical fumble that set up the winning touchdown. Calgary won 12-7. They returned to the Grey Cup in 1949, but lost to Montreal, and then Strode's football career ended the way so many do. 2 broken ribs, a shattered shoulder. He said, "It was like I had fought Joe Louis." At 35 years old, with a broken body and no football left, Woody Strode needed to reinvent himself. The path he chose was one that nobody saw coming. Number 6. Trapped for life. Woody Strode's third career began in the wrestling ring. By 1950, he had become professional wrestling's first black star, competing across California and Canada against the biggest draw of the era, Gorgeous George, and teaming with black wrestling greats Bobo Brazil and Bearcat Wright. He was billed as the Pacific Coast heavyweight champion. The money was about $500 a week. But more importantly, the ring taught him how to move, how to make a fight look real, how to command an audience with nothing but his body. That skill would soon change everything. Producer Walter Mirisch spotted him wrestling and cast him in a 1951 jungle film. The studio wanted his head shaved. He was reluctant. They offered $500 a week. He said, "All right, where are the pluckers?" In his own words, "I was out in the world market with a bald head, trapped for life." Finally, it became a way of life. The 1950s were a parade of exotic roles: African warriors, gladiators, jungle natives. He played the lion in Androcles and the Lion, which he called the toughest job he ever had. His 6'4" sculpted frame opened every door in Hollywood and locked him on the other side. Directors saw a warrior, a slave, a gladiator. Never a romantic lead, never the star. Then Cecil B. DeMille hired him as a $500 a week extra for the 10 Commandments in 1956. When nobody else could fill the part of the King of Ethiopia, DeMille elevated him. A regal entrance, a lasting impression. And in 1959, Porkchop Hill gave him his first serious dramatic role. It was on that lot that a chauffeur approached him. An old man wanted to see him. An old man who would split his personality, nearly break him, and ultimately make him an actor. Number 5. The Gladiator Who Refused to Kill. Before we get to the old man, there is a role from 1960 that demands its own place in this story. Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus. Kirk Douglas, producing and starring. And Woody Strode as Draba, the Ethiopian gladiator armed with trident and net, ordered to fight Spartacus to the death. Strode's wrestling background made every moment look real. He later said, "I would have lost that role if I had not been in shape, and if I had not had experience as a wrestler. It took skill to do that fight scene without hurting myself or hurting Douglas." Draba wins. He has Spartacus pinned. The Roman crowd demands the kill. But Draba looks up at the aristocrats in their luxury box, and in one defiant act, hurls his trident at them. He is killed by Crassus, played by Laurence Olivier. His death sparks the slave rebellion that drives the entire film. A few minutes of screen time. And those minutes shook audiences in 1960. Film scholars read Draba's sacrifice as a metaphor for the civil rights movement. A black man choosing death over submission. The role earned Strode a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor, the first black nominee in that category. On set, Olivier told him, "What you are about to do, I could never do." Strode said that gave him all the confidence he needed. But even after Spartacus, even after a Golden Globe nomination, Hollywood still would not give Woody Strode top billing. It took an old man with a camera, a temper, and a complicated heart to give him something more. Number 4. The sergeant who carried a race across a river. John Ford sent his chauffeur to find Woody Strode on the studio lot. "I hear you are trying to be an actor," Ford said. Strode nodded. Ford told him, "I have a little job for you." That little job was the title role in Sergeant Rutledge, released in 1960. The first major Hollywood Western, built around a black hero. A Buffalo soldier of the 9th Cavalry, falsely accused of raping and murdering a white woman and killing her commanding officer father. Warner Brothers wanted Sidney Poitier or Harry Belafonte. Ford refused. "They are not tough enough," he said, "to do what I want Sergeant Rutledge to be." The film came out 2 years before To Kill a Mockingbird, making it one of the first mainstream Hollywood films to address racism directly. Strode called it his favorite role. He said, "It had dignity." John Ford put classic words in my mouth. "You never seen a Negro come off a mountain like John Wayne before. I had the greatest glory hallelujah ride across the Pecos River that any black man ever had on the screen, and I did it myself. I carried the whole black race across that river." Ford's method was merciless. He got Strode drunk the day before a crucial scene, so his hangover would read as a man weak from a gunshot wound. Strode said, "That old man not only directed me, he split my personality. I almost had a nervous breakdown doing Sergeant Rutledge, but it helped me become an actor. He put me in the saddle." Ford treated him like a son, and Strode needed that. He had a certain amount of crudeness, Strode admitted, that went back 100 years, and that is what Ford liked. But Ford's racial attitudes were complicated. He used Strode as a shield against accusations of racism. He once said, "My best friends are black, Woody Strode, and a caretaker who has worked for me for 30 years, and on the set of their next film together, Ford would reveal just how willing he was to weaponize the man he called a son." Number 3. The man behind Liberty Valance. In 1962, Ford made The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. He gave Strode the role of Pompey, John Wayne's loyal ranch hand. In the film's most poignant scene, Pompey stands before a classroom and tries to recite the Declaration of Independence. He gets through the opening, then falters. He forgets the line that all men are created equal. James Stewart's character gently says, "A lot of people forget that part of it." In that single moment, Ford said more about race in America than most directors have said in entire careers. In another scene, a bartender refuses to serve Pompey. Wayne's Doniphan roars, "Who says he cannot? Pour yourself a drink, Pompey." Later, Pompey saves a drunken, suicidal Doniphan from his own burning house, the servant rescuing the master. The man with no power performing the greatest act of loyalty in the film. Behind the camera, Ford played his cruelest game. When James Stewart remarked that Strode's costume looked a bit Uncle Remus-like, Ford summoned the entire crew and announced that Stewart did not like Negroes. Stewart was humiliated. Strode was weaponized in a fight that was not his. It was years before Strode realized Ford had been using him to psychologically break Stewart. On that same set, Wayne, absorbing Ford's relentless abuse, nearly came to blows with Strode. Ford called out from his chair, "Do not hit him, Woody. We need him." The man who shot Liberty Valance entered the National Film Registry in 2007. 4 of Woody Strode's films now sit in that registry, and the 4th one opens with what many call the greatest sequence in cinema history. A desolate train station, 3 gunmen, and water dripping off the brim of a hat. Number 2, the longest 10 minutes in cinema. In 1968, Sergio Leone made Once Upon a Time in the West, and he opened it with a scene that broke every rule of filmmaking. 3 gunmen arrive at a desolate train station at La Calahorra, Spain. They wait. For nearly 10 agonizing minutes, almost nothing happens. A windmill creaks, a fly buzzes around Jack Elam's face, and water drips, slowly, steadily, onto the brim of Woody Strode's hat. No dialogue, no music. Just 3 men, the desert, and time itself, pressing down on the audience. Strode stands there with the patience of a man who has waited his entire life, which, in a way, he had. Then Charles Bronson's harmonica steps off the train. A brief exchange, and all 3 gunmen are dead. That sequence was filmed over 4 days. It is regularly cited as one of the greatest openings in cinema history. And Woody Strode, standing in that dust with water running down his face, became an icon of the genre without speaking a single word. He had spent his entire career making silence powerful. On the football field, where his play spoke louder than any press conference. In the wrestling ring, where his body told the story. And now, in the Spanish desert, where doing nothing became the most memorable thing in the film. But there was still one chapter left. The chapter that reveals who Woody Strode truly was. Not the athlete, not the actor, the human being. Number 1, the old man's floor. When John Ford was dying of cancer in 1973, Woody Strode came to him. Not as an actor, not as a colleague. He came as a son. For roughly 4 months, Strode slept on the floor beside Ford's bed. He was there when the old man needed water. He was there when the pain came in the middle of the night. He was there at the very end. This was a man who had been manipulated by Ford, used as a psychological weapon against James Stewart, nearly broken during Sergeant Rutledge. Ford had complicated racial attitudes that make simple judgments impossible, and yet Woody Strode slept on that floor, every night, until it was over. That tells you everything you need to know about him. After Ford's death, Strode did something else that America had never allowed. He went to Italy, and there, for the first time in his life, he became a leading man. His chapter about it in his memoir Goldust opens with 3 words. Bene, grazie Italia. Well, thank you, Italy. He wrote, "They made a star out of me, and for that I will always be grateful. For me, Italy was the promised land." His finest Italian role was the lead in Black Jesus, playing a Christ-like revolutionary based on assassinated Congolese leader Patrice Lumumba. It was the only genuine top-billed lead of his entire career. The only time his name appeared first on a movie poster. He said, "Race is not a factor in the world market. I have done everything but play an Anglo-Saxon. I would play a Viking with blue contact lenses and a blonde wig." In 1940, he had married Princess Lukialuana, a full-blooded native Hawaiian and distant relative of Queen Liliuokalani, the last monarch of Hawaii. "You would have thought I was marrying Lana Turner," he said, the way the whites in Hollywood acted. They were married for 39 years until Luana died of Parkinson's disease in 1980. He married Tina Thompson in 1982. He worked into his final years. The Cotton Club for Coppola. Posse for Mario Van Peebles. His last film was Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead with Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe, and Leonardo DiCaprio. He did not live to see it released. The film is dedicated to him. Woody Strode died in his sleep at his ranch in Glendora, California on December 31st, 1994. He was 80 years old, buried with full military honors at Riverside National Cemetery. The New York Times ran his obituary under the headline, "Woody Strode, 80. Character actor. Character actor? After Spartacus, after Sergeant Rutledge, after Liberty Valance, after the greatest opening sequence ever filmed, after reintegrating professional football, after an undefeated Grey Cup, after becoming wrestling's first black star. Character actor. Film critic David Shipman wrote, Woody Strode was tall of build, bald of pate, with a striking screen presence. Had he been born white, or later, he might have become a star. The honors came long after they should have. Golden Globe nomination in 1961. The Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame in 1980. UCLA Athletic Hall of Fame in 1992. And in 2022, nearly 3 decades after his death, the Pro Football Hall of Fame finally honored him as one of the Forgotten Four. Pixar named Sheriff Woody in Toy Story after him. Jet magazine called him the Jackie Robinson of cinema. In every role he played, no matter how small, no matter how constrained by the racism of his era, Woody Strode brought dignity. He took parts written as stereotypes, warriors and slaves and gladiators and servants, and made them human. He stood 6 feet 4 inches tall and dared you to look away. 3 careers, 3 barriers shattered. And at the end, when the man who had shaped his life lay dying, he did not give a speech about it. He did not write an editorial or hold a press conference. He just walked into that room, lay down on the floor, and stayed. His name was Woody Strode. And if you did not know his name before today, now you do. Hit that subscribe button, because there are more legends like this who slept on history's floor and never got the credit. And they deserve to be remembered.